Before drawing clothes, you must draw what's underneath. I'm tracing the reference for quicker guidelines. I always start by marking the joints before drawing the rest. I already have Kaya's head beforehand, so I'll go ahead and draw the body. I know he has long hair, but for the sake of this video, I cut his hair short so we can see the clothes clearly. By the way, I don't sketch the full naked body, just enough shape to place the clothes on. I'll draw a cleaner sketch so it's easier to color. I want to study folds and creases, and this reference has a lot of them. The fabric affects how the folds look. Thin materials like this have lots of sharp triangular creases, while thick fabrics like wool have rounder and bigger folds. I start shading with soft shadows using an airbrush, then add hard shadows, starting with the darkest areas. I don't zoom in so I can focus on the big shapes. Afterwards, I lower the brush's opacity to add the midtones. This will add depth and dimensions to the clothes. I will also shade the pants real quick. The pants also have a lot of creases because they're loose and baggy jeans. I'm just kidding. My shading is quite messy because I'm planning to paint over the sketch. It's easier for me to paint everything in one layer, but feel free to keep the line art and use multiple layers. Okay, full disclaimer. Probably should have done this in the beginning. This is not really a tutorial. This is more like how I do it. And I'm still quite new in drawing clothes, so consider this as a study together type of video. So please lower your expectations for me in this video. I don't really know how to explain my rendering. I'm just following the reference, but I render clothes one part at a time. I separated it into 4. Well, 5 if you count the pants. Normally, I would render the painting as a whole, but it's quite hard to do so for clothes. However, for the base shading, the messy one we did earlier with the line art, I did it as a whole. There is something called tension points. I always confuse it with pressure points. But anyway, it's tension points. I don't know how to explain what that is, so I found this clothes tutorial on Clip Studio Tips. You see the areas highlighted by the green circles? Yeah, that's the tension points. In this reference, the tension points are on the shoulders, the button, the areas pressed by the arms, and the slightly folded sleeves. For the pants, it's around the waist. Creases and folds mostly form around these points, and they tend to be sharper and darker, but that depends on the fabric and the lighting. Rendering can make folds lose definition, so I redraw them with darker color and then blend them into the midtones. Okay, I'll show you in more detail how I render using this sleeve. So here's the tension point. Right, so here we draw the dark shadow and it fades as it leaves the tension point. When blending, don't blend the whole shadow because it will blur out your painting. Blend only the edges. Always have a reference. Clothes are very tricky and how they look depends on a lot of variables like materials, poses, body type, lighting, and other things I couldn't think of right now. Colors are made of thicker, stiffer material compared to the rest of the shirt, so they don't crease much or reflect a lot of light. I add a dark shadow beneath them and highlight the rim to make them distinguishable. Yeah, for the pants, I think there are 2 tension points at the waistband and around the crotch. Stop with the giggling, it's just a body part. I just realized that there's a zipper there, which explains the tension point. I didn't blend much on the pants since the lighting is strong, making the shadows sharper and darker. My pants shading is all over the place, so I kinda struggled here. It's probably easier to start with big, dark shadows first, then add midtones. Okay, I think we can add in stronger highlights. I will add it gradually. Start by using the overlay layer and add muted teal with an airbrush. Then I clip a layer on top of the original drawing and fill it with black. Set the layer to color dodge and apply grayish teal as highlight. I covered it with black in the beginning because it's easier to control the highlight and I can add it gradually. But you can skip that if you want. Use a lasso tool to help you draw strong highlights. I still use the airbrush and just brush the bottom half so it's fading naturally. And we're basically done with the first outfit. Well, I don't mean to toot my own horn. That's a weird English phrase. I think this looks pretty good. It looks okay. This time I'm drawing a different fabric. I think this is satin or silk, maybe? Not important. The important thing is this fabric reflects a lot of light. It looks shiny, looks glowing, and come on, Kaya in this, effing gorgeous. The reference has two hands, but I only draw one because it's too hard. Stop being snarky. My skill issue can't be news to you. It's kind of hard to map out the folds and creases because the material is very soft and lustrous. This word. The creases also look softer and rounder compared to the previous outfit. The pants, on the other hand, are stiffer and don't reflect much light, which is quite the contrast with the shirt. Like before, I will render this outfit part by part, starting with the sleeve. Usually I don't add highlights from the get-go, but it's kinda impossible with this type of fabric because the contrast between light and shadow is quite strong. I also can't figure out the shading on the upper arm, so at this point I'm just winging it. This is kind of like painting gold, isn't it? Lots of highlight, strong light and shadow contrast. Maybe this is a sign for me to actually practice painting gold. I will leave the sleeve, really? I will leave the sleeve alone for now and render the rest of the clothes. For some reason, I can render it as a whole now. I think I gained some confidence after painting that first outfit. Hope that lasts until the end of this video. I can't figure out the shading on this part near the collar, so I'm just gonna use the good old method of winging it. Here's how I shade silk or satin folds. It's actually really simple. Add shadows here, highlights here, and then reflective light here. There. Simple, right? This is the method I use to shade the ruffles. How about the rest of the outfit? No idea. Oh wait, actually, here's how I shade the creases. I made a bunch of squiggly shapes and then shade it like this, leaving some parts lighter, and then add highlights. Now I will clean things up and highlight the rims. I just realized my brush strokes are really messy. Good Lord, that's fine. If it looks like silk when you zoom out, you're good. Focus on the big picture. Do not overthink. I did record the pants rendering, but you know, it's nothing interesting. It's actually harder to render the pants because the reference doesn't show much contrast. So let's just skip ahead and I will show you some tricks to make the clothes look more interesting. Please note that this doesn't work in every fabric. It works great in satin or silk, but I don't know about cotton, wool, or any other fabric. I'm doing this in Procreate, but you can also use Ibispaint if you have the paid version because some of the filters are for premium users only. Anyway, I have duplicated the clothes, so any changes will affect the clothes only. Now duplicate and clip the layer, and then open gradient map. I love experimenting with gradient maps. You can make a gradient from scratch, but the pre-made ones are already so beautiful, so I'll just use them. I think I will go with neon and set it to 75% and set the layer to soft light. Duplicate the original layer again and open curves. Now you can go nuts, but within reason. Make sure the wavy lines don't touch the very top and bottom to get this colorful result. Now set the layer to pin light and lower the opacity. You can use color balance to adjust the color. It gives a slightly iridescent look to the clothes, and you can experiment with different colors. And there you go, 2 different clothes with different fabric materials and 2 different styles. One is casual and the other is, it's probably also considered casual, somewhere in the medieval ages, you know. I don't know, I should sleep. Thank you, good night.